What if, dream with me, what if we had a different healthcare system? Now, you might be noticing my spectacles. These are my driving glasses. As I get old, your old buddy Josh is aging. My eyes have gotten worse since I got LASIK surgery 10 years ago. And driving isn't, in the daytime is fine, but it's getting progressively worse. So I finally went and pulled the plug and I got some driving glasses. Just because it's a little bit crisper. It's funny because when I was in the eye doc taking one of my kids, I said, I'll go ahead and get my eyes examined too. I said, for sure I'm going to need glasses. She goes, well, you're 20-30. And she goes, you're fine. You can still see. I can't guarantee, I can make a prescription for you, but in terms of your eyesight, it's still pretty good. I said, well, I need, it's just not quite as crisp as I like. And she goes, all right, well, we can get you a prescription. I said, what if I did LASIK again? She goes, I wouldn't mess with that because your prescription is, 20-30. We can make it 20-20, but there's such a cost and a risk for that one. Just glasses, okay. So anyway, your old buddy Josh has now got my specs on. Let me tell you a story about how I knew I wanted LASIK. And I recommend LASIK. I've known a couple. I think my brother, he got it. He had to get his redone. And I had a good friend, John, in Texas, they jacked his up royally, but he had it redone, and he's fine with it now. But anyway, I'll never forget, because, man, I had, glasses that thick. I've always had bad eyesight, always. And, they weren't literally that thick, but you know what I'm saying, Coke bottle glasses. But I remember I was driving on the Beltway in D.C. I was going to work at UPS, and UPS, I'd have to leave. We lived in Alexandria, right by the... I think it's George Washington Middle School or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of the school, but it's right off of Route 1, which is in Delray. When my dad bought that house, for freaking out. I mean, even back then it was expensive for like $300,000 in mid-90s or something like that. And he fixed it up, and while he was remodeling it, he let me live there rent-free while I was going to college for about a year, which is pretty sweet. Well, he sold it, and he made a decent money. If he would have kept it for a couple more years, he would have made a killing. But anyway, I think he made pretty good money. My dad, for all of his ineptitude financially, he was always good at real estate. I tell you, man, always had a nose for real estate. Not a great businessman, but he had a good nose for real estate. Anyway, so to get to my job at UPS, I was loading trucks. It was in Merriweather, someplace, Merrifield, something like that, up on out Route 1 and going towards, what was that, Landmark? I can't remember. But anyway, you had to get on the highway. I just remember you had to get on that Beltway to get there. So I had to get on, and you have to go in the middle of the rush hour, which is a pain. Anyway, so just like I'm doing now, I was getting on the Beltway, merging, looking on my shoulder. That's what you're supposed to do, right? And then I heard this car flying by me fast on my right. And I was like, what? And I looked over like that, and my glasses went flying off my face. And I can't see crap. Back then, literally, I could not see this. I think it went too far over. I couldn't see to save my life. And I remember just thinking, I can't see. I went too far over. I couldn't see. I didn't go one too far over. Now I'm back again. Anyway, so it scared the crap out of me because I think I had like 2,700 vision or something like that. I don't know if you call me legally blind, but my glasses went flying off and they went down. You know how you drop your cell phone between your seats? That's what I did. It was, So I started slowing down. And the Beltway, my friends, around rush hour is nuts. I mean, you get used to it to be able to deal with it, negotiate it, but if you can't see, woo! And I remember reaching down, I couldn't find it, so I just started slowing down, put my my blink, the hazards on, and I just started going over slowly but surely, just getting over to the right hand side to the shoulder there, in order to get my glasses off and be able to get back to work. Man, it was crazy, and I'll never forget that. That scared me to death, and that's why I said, I'm getting LASIK, because as the natural prepper in me, being from Maine and having to conquer, or at least contend with, the massive winters that come in Maine, it makes you become a prepper inherently, because you have to contend with those crazy winters, and if you're not prepared for them, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So when you're born and raised in Maine, you inherently become a prepper. So being a natural prepper, I said I better get some way around this that if I don't have my glasses, I have a way I can contend with not being able to see. And so I always knew I wanted LASIK from there, just because worst case scenario, I don't have to carry glasses or contact lenses, and I don't, which is nice. So even right now, I can see well. I mean, I got 20/30 vision. The issue, of course, is just I can't see as well as I'd like, because as I get older, your eyes just, they lose steam. But anyway, so that's why I got my glasses. Long-winded story. Well, we got traffic on the day after Christmas on 400. It's Atlanta traffic. If anyone can figure out Atlanta traffic, please tell me, and I'll make you a rich man. Well, I won't, but we will make you a rich man here in Atlanta, because Atlanta traffic is nuts. Why would it? Anyway, all right, so let's go back to healthcare. That's 6 minutes in this story, and you haven't heard anything about healthcare. I can see the naysayers now. Just get to the point. Look, man, I like to ramble. I mean, that's what I do on this channel. I ramble. I talk about some things, that occur to me that have an interest, but I also ramble with storytelling, with just smack talking, the whole thing. It's just what I do. So, I mean, look, I don't know what else to tell you. If you don't like it, then there are many other channels where you can go to, that's for sure. So, at least entertain me by hanging in there, will you? All right, so here's my thing. I'm watching a video, YouTube channel. I just dropped my boys off at Georgia Tech tennis, so I'm driving down to Georgia Tech, and we're watching this channel on okay, they got some guy out there anyway, so I'm watching this channel, Knowing Better, and I love the channel. The guy's this guy, he's like Tim Pool in politics, but he's not necessarily political, but it's kind of middle of the road, moderate guy. And I just think he's got I love his channel. I think it's a great channel. Takes all comers, not in a divisive way, but more of a I'm talking to people from my perspective, and he does his research. I just think it's fantastic. So here he's talking about a motorist's guide to healthcare, and he talks about UK, the NHS. It's just a great video. There's no other way around it. It got me thinking. And his ultimate theory, or his ultimate conclusion, is we should be more like the NHS and less like whatever this conglomeration that we have in the U.S. is. And I tell you, I don't have any. The way he defines it is interesting. It's very seductive. You're like, yeah, just turn over the government. Because if you look at the government, the NHS, versus whatever the heck we have in the United States, it's hard to argue that the NHS is worse. Let's just put it that way. Hard to argue that we're going to pay a heck of a lot more ultimately out of pocket. It's hard to argue that. It's just hard. And I completely agree with that. But as always, these guys always miss. There's another aspect to health insurance that they never discuss, which is always whatever we have here or a single payer. That's always the two options. Well, what we have here is just no one knows. It's crazy. It might not be broken, but no one can figure this out. There's too much corruption, too much hands in the cookie jar. You got private, public. You got everything is the same. Thus, the NHS is the only alternative. And this is where, if you look back at Leonard Reed, I-Pencil, he talks about, if you're so used to only the government providing mail service, you think only the government can provide mail service. He talks about that in I-Pencil. He says, once you get accustomed to the government as the only solution for mail service, you think it can't be delivered by any other entity other than the government. And that's, of course, what the government want you to think, that there's no other solution other than government. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm so frustrated, like, how come the only option are this and a forever increasing government takeover? How come there is never the option? And he actually talks about it with high deductible health plans with a health savings account mode, but he doesn't give it the just due. He says these are great, except for you can't have one unless you have a high deductible health plan. And that's all he gave it to. And, in terms of the attribution of the benefits of HSAs with HDHPs. And I'm like, that's the solution. That's the solution. But the solution is that you only get HDHP, HSA if your plan offers that, i.e. your employer or the government. And he says the government has catastrophic plan options, but you have to be 30 years or younger under the Affordable Care Act. But I'm like, that's the flippin' solution. The free market, the voucher method is the solution. Why? And everyone's like, well, you can't have a solution for capitalism under healthcare. Why? Well, because you don't know what the price is going to be. Why? Well, because we don't know what it is now. That's the whole point. The whole point that we don't know what it is now is because the government has gotten so big and involved in it. It is not mandated that there's a price point. Trump did it to some extent, but you have this government, private public partnership that it gives us the worst of both worlds. Capitalism needs a pricing mechanism. You can't tell me that with every other aspect of health insurance, of any, from freaking your tornado going through Tuscaloosa, to floods, to all the auto insurance that you have, life insurance that you have, that we can't provide some knowledge of what it's going to cost if you have a heart attack, if you have an appendix burst or something like that. Yes, we can. It's just we choose not to because it's to the benefit of the insurance companies and the hospitals to keep that stuff hidden. We absolutely can. You know how we know? Because we have these things called HMOs right now, which tells you exactly what the doc's going to charge for appendix burst and all that other stuff. We know exactly what it's going to charge for emergency care. We know exactly what the hospital is going to charge, what the doctors are going to cost. We know exactly what these are going to cost. And then this guy's bashing on Medicare Advantage Part C because they're private, saying, well, there's so much corruption here. No, he's saying what they do is they deny cost or coverage for, I think he said, like half the claims or something like that. That just because they're denying the claim doesn't mean the claim's valid. It's kind of like just because you're arrested and being prosecuted doesn't mean you're guilty. Just because they got denied claims doesn't mean the claim was valid. Just because you got prosecuted and arrested and prosecuted by the magistrate and the prosecutor doesn't mean you're guilty. And so to say, well, the judge let 50% of the people off doesn't mean he's letting 50% of the people who are guilty off. Just because they're tried doesn't make them guilty. Trust me, from someone who's gone through that myself. Being tried with a crime does not make you guilty of said crime. So just because under Medicare Advantage claims programs they're denying the claims doesn't mean the claims are legit. Or you could look at it otherwise. You could say maybe Medicare, original Medicare, is allowing for claims that aren't as legitimate because there's no private, it's basically unlimited, they have this unlimited capacity to go and get the money from the taxpayer. I mean, I don't know the answer. I'm just saying. Why can we never have the alternative? It's always got to be what we have now or a forever encroaching part of big government. Why can't it ever be a less encroaching part for freedom with vouchers? To say, look, here's what I say. We're going to give you for a pre-existing coverage, we're going to give you a Medicare for all option. I'm telling you. Say, so if you have, look, I got a cousin. She had issues, and we would debate this all the time. I would debate it. And I love her to death, my cousin in Florida. Her and her just parents are freaking some of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life, without question. They're just incredibly wonderful people. The issue, though, that she had was she had cancer, some very rare form of cancer, and she said, I could not get health insurance coverage. I don't debate that. I do not debate that. But inherently, and so her thing is the government needs to take over health insurance because she could not get insurance. I'm sitting there thinking, but don't you see the absurdity of all this? You're saying you have this rare form of cancer, which you did, and because you couldn't get health insurance coverage, because you have this rare form of cancer, the government needs to provide health, take over for everything. I don't have a rare form of health insurance coverage. I don't want the government taking over my health coverage. So you see what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be if or that. Why can't there be some in between? Say, look, we're going to provide coverage, the public option, for people who have pre-existing conditions. I can't get it. I got no qualm with that, none whatsoever. But I do have a qualm with mandating that I have to give up my coverage, which I don't want anyway, or in terms I want catastrophic coverage and that's it. to provide for the rarer cases that someone needs coverage. The fact that she's a rare illness, I'm sitting there thinking, but you're a rare illness, and inherently that means that it's rare. It doesn't happen to that many people. So to throw up what's working for the vast majority of Americans, i.e. in their private policy, to cover a rare, it seems to me, is putting the cart before the horse and saying we're going to take care of you over the expense of everybody else. Why does it have to be like that? Why can't we say we're going to take care of you and allow for the other people to keep their policies? Yes, we're all going to have to pay a little bit more to make sure those of us citizens are covered. I got no qualm with that. That's what we're doing right now for Medicare. That's called mortality credits. You're paying for Medicare and Social Security. The people who die early are not getting the benefit of all the tax they paid. The people who die late, and the people who use it through rare needs, they get the benefit of what other people you paid into it who don't get the benefit. That's literally what we'd argue about annuities, what the benefit is through mortality credits. If you live beyond the average life expectancy, you're going to benefit. If you die before the average life expectancy, sucks to be you, but guess what? You're dead. You don't care anyway. That's the same concept here. We take care of those who can't take care of themselves. I don't think very many people are going to have a problem with that. And we're doing it right now anyway. It's just in terms of FICA tax of the Social Security and Medicare. So we do that, but we say, okay, we're going to still allow for catastrophic coverage, essentially with what you can do with your car insurance. Say, look, it's going to cost you $1,000 to fix. It's out of pocket. It's going to cost you $2,000 to fix. Don't file an insurance claim. If it costs $5,000 to fix, you might file an insurance claim. Your $1,000 deductible, and then the insurance will cover 80% of that up to your max amount of pocket expense. So your max amount of pocket expense will be $10,000 a year. And look, I'm just throwing this out there. It's okay. So if the cost of insurance, with all the insanity that goes on in the American system, is $20,000 a year, $24,000 a year for my family of 6. We're going to say you have the max out-of-pocket expense for you and your family of 6 will be about $10,000, and you're going to pay a premium of $200 a month, or whatever it is. And then so basically you are on the hook for the first $10,000. After that, the max will be you'll pay 20% up until a max of you're on the hook for the first whatever your deductible is. We'll say $2,500. All right. After that, you're on the hook for the next $10,000, 20% up until the next $10,000. Does that make sense? So your deductible is $2,500. Use that for example. So every time you go to the doc, you're going to pay the first $2,500 a year for your coverage. All right. Then on top of that, we're going to say you will pay 20% of the next amount of money up until $10,000 out of pocket. All right, so you're going to say it will max cost you your annual premiums. We'll say $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. That's plus the $2,500 deductible plus the $10,000. So in any given year, a max cost of say $12,500, whatever that number is. I can't figure out in my head. But you had catastrophic coverage. You have coverage for appendix. You will be covered for everything that you possibly could need. But because the deductible is so high, you'll be limited to what you file for insurance for small potato stuff. This the equivalent of getting an oil change. You want to get a strep test? We're not covering that. You pay for it out of pocket because you have to pay for it out of pocket up to the first $2,500. But we know the catastrophic coverage will be there. I don't get why this is such a problem. In Obamacare, they said up until 30, you have the catastrophic coverage. Why not lay it until you're 65 when we go on Medicare? So you have catastrophic coverage up to you're 65. I don't get why this is so hard. And I do get it because the lobbying of the AHA, AMA, American Medical Association, the Big Pharma, I get all that. But just make it freedom. Say we're going to give you the public option if you have pre-existing conditions. We will guarantee you a place of coverage, guaranteed by being an American taxpayer and American citizen. Done and done. But for those who don't need that or want that, you're still going to pay into that because you may at some point need that, but you're also going to take care of your fellow Americans. Part 2, though, you can buy a catastrophic thing. Catastrophic means it's going to cover you anything above $50,000, whatever it is, $15,000 a year. But you're going to be on the hook for the first $2,500, then 20% of the next amount up to $15,000 a year. Then you know what your maximum out of pocket will be. And then you can shop around for any policy you want. We're going to say, here, you're going to pay $200 a month or whatever it is. You can go to any plan you want, knowing full well that there's no networks. Everybody's covered in terms of the same plans. Everyone's covered in terms of the same pricing mechanism, because you'll know the price. Maybe have the government regulate that. I don't know. Or at least have the government create some kind of, like they do with Medicare Advantage plans. You see what I'm saying? I got no qualm with that. But why just a National Health Service where it says you have to do this? Because the problem with National Health Service is we know for a fact it's going to be regulated to the extent man, I'm drawing a blank what it's called, where they're saying you have a certain amount, but we're not going to cover anything for those other issues. There's a word I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember this word. Anyway. And what they say, well, a green government comes in and it says, we don't like people eating meat because meat's bad for the environment and it does bad for cholesterol, and red meat's bad according to, the antiquated healthcare stuff. So if you have a consistently eating red meat diet, we're not going to cover you. Yeah, you don't think that could happen? Trust me, man. They're doing that with cigarettes right now. We know for a fact they're doing it with cigarettes, and you know for a fact it's only going to get worse. And then, it's silliness on the anti-science on vaping and stuff. That's why I don't want the government in charge, because it will be mandated that they have favorite groups. The government always has favorite groups, and if you're not part of that favorite group, sucks to be you. You don't have to give a choice in the matter, though. That's why I want health insurance to be vouchered, like Medicare Advantage. The government can say, hey, at the end of the day, this is the way it's going to be. From a price potential and all that, but you have the ability to choose your own plan, your own coverage, and you can be catastrophic if you want. I just don't get why this is so hard. It's frustrating. All right, we'll see you.